So you were in a cult.
I was in a few.
How did you get out?
Of which one?
Well, let's start with the first one. What was it called again?
The Independent Fundamentalist Baptists.
Earnestly contending for the faith. It means put on the boxing gloves, get ready to go to war.
It'd be a cold day in hell before I get my challenge from a woman. I'm a preacher. A woman didn't write this book. Not one woman wrote the scriptures right here. A man wrote the Bible, got it from God. A man hung on the cross. His name is Jesus Christ. And God called a man to lead the church here. Hey, I'm glad I'm a man.
You know what makes women stupid is college. Because college makes everybody stupid.
What was that group all about?
Absolute control and separation from the outside world. I attended an IFB church called Parsippany Baptist Church for nearly 20 years. From the time I was in kindergarten till I graduated from college, I was part of that church.
But it wasn't just church, right?
No, it wasn't just church. I attended the elementary school, middle school, high school, and it was all run by the church. And then for college, I went to the only institution, or one of the only institutions, approved by my church, Bob Jones University.
Everything I do is focused on Christ and on the gospel. Whether it's in class or whether it's on a sports field, whatever it may be, it's for His sake.
So you were deep in it, huh? How did you escape?
I just left. I mean, it wasn't that simple. It never is for cult survivors.
You're telling me.
I just got tired of all the rules. I couldn't listen to anything but hymns and classical music. We weren't allowed to go to movie theaters. We weren't allowed to wear jeans. God forbid we got close enough to alcohol to even smell it. But that was my whole world. I couldn't imagine leaving. I knew that if I left, I'd be ostracized.
How quickly did that happen?
Practically that day. My best friend, who also happened to be the pastor's daughter, cut me off immediately. I had to build new friendships from scratch. People I'd known for 17 years suddenly just stopped talking to me. I was branded a heretic, a blasphemer, worse than an unbeliever.
Why?
Because I wasn't supposed to leave. No one is supposed to believe those things as deeply as I did and then just walk away. Although to be fair, I didn't stop believing at the time. I just wanted to get away from all of the rules. I knew they were all bullshit. They talked about God's love, but as soon as you broke a rule, you were put into church discipline. That's not love.
Where did you end up after that?
I found a church that didn't enforce any of those rules, but they still held to like the same core beliefs that I did, so it was safer for me.
And what did you believe?
Well, that everyone was going to hell after they died unless they prayed a certain prayer.
You worked as a pastor at one of those churches, didn't you?
Yeah, for about 5 years. I directed the kids ministries at a church called Emergence. So basically, I ran an indoctrination facility. You know, brainwash them while they're young.
How did you leave that place?
I was basically forced out. To this day, I don't know exactly why they wanted me gone. I don't know, maybe I wasn't convinced by the doctrines that they were trying to enforce, or maybe I was becoming too vocal about my disbelief, or maybe I wasn't conforming to the standards of a leader that they had. I don't know, who knows at this point. All I know is that it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
So after you left Emergence, you landed where?
At Hillsong.
Hillsong?
Only 3 years, but it was long enough to start climbing the ladder.
Climbing the ladder?
Hillsong is an incredibly hierarchical organization. People were constantly vying for authority, position, power, and while I wasn't necessarily trying to get any real authority or power at that place, I did leverage my position in the evangelical world and my relationship to a high-profile leader at the time to become one of their live show producers, which was a leadership role.
And how did you leave Hillsong?
I don't know, I got tired. The constant schedule demands, the verbally abusive team leads and pastors, the lack of respect for people's personal lives, it was too much. And that doesn't even touch on all the scandals, the sex abuse, the cheating, the cover-ups. I won't go into it all here. I mean, you can Google for yourself Hillsong and find dozens of news stories coming out every single day.
So how are all these places cults? They kind of look like normal churches to an outsider.
You're aware of the BITE model of authoritarian control, right?
Yes, by Stephen Hassan.
So if you look at each of the points in the BITE model,
Behavior control, information control, thought control, emotional control.
right, exactly. So if you look at each of these points, you'll find that all of these churches exert control over their followers in one area or another to varying degrees.
So that's why all these churches are cults.
Kind of. I think evangelical Christianity is itself a cult, and each of these churches are groups within the larger cult, all kind of exerting different levels of control over their followers.
Why talk about this now?
We're watching the rise of violent extremism, most of it motivated by evangelical Christianity. I want to help people avoid falling into these cults, but more importantly, I want to make the outside world aware of the dangers in allowing evangelicalism to infiltrate the public square. I mean, we're watching it happen right now in front of our very eyes.